Have you ever wondered why, despite doing everything right, you sometimes feel disconnected from your colleagues or peers? Maybe you don't feel outright rejected, but there's a subtle sense of not being entirely welcome. This invisible wall between you and the others in your workplace can often be traced back to one key factor: communication. Communication is not just about delivering a message. It's about building connections, forging trust, and fostering mutual respect. In today's fast-paced work environment, it's easy to overlook small missteps in communication that can cost us these valuable connections. But here's the good news. These mistakes are fixable, and once you know what they are, you can transform how others perceive you. Today, I'll share 3 secrets about communication that unknowingly make people dislike you, and how to flip the script to become someone people naturally gravitate toward. But first, let's talk about why communication matters in the first place. The importance of connection through communication. You might think, I'm here to do my job, not to make friends. And that's valid to a point. But here's the thing. Your ability to communicate effectively has a direct impact on how well you do your job. Whether you're working on a team, leading others, or simply interacting with coworkers, your success hinges on your relationships. And strong relationships are built on solid communication. So if you've ever felt sidelined or like no matter how much you try, people just don't seem to connect with you, listen closely. These communication secrets could change the game for you. Secret number 1, asking for help isn't a weakness. One of the biggest misconceptions many of us have is thinking that asking for help makes us look weak or incompetent. We fear that by seeking assistance, we're somehow admitting failure or giving others a reason to see us as less capable. But here's the truth. Asking for help can actually make you more likable. The Franklin effect. There's a psychological phenomenon known as the Franklin effect, named after Benjamin Franklin. The story goes that Franklin, in his early political career, once needed to win over an adversary. Instead of challenging this person directly, he asked to borrow a rare book from him. The man obliged, and after Franklin returned the book with a thank you note, their relationship shifted. The man who previously disliked Franklin became one of his allies. Why? People feel more positively about those they've helped. It's counterintuitive, but when someone does a favor for you, they subconsciously convince themselves that they like you. Because why else would they have helped you? Personal story. I'll admit I used to struggle with this. Early in my career, I wanted to appear self-sufficient at all costs. I thought that being the go-to person for everyone else was how I would prove my worth. So I avoided asking for help even when I was clearly out of my depth. The result? I felt isolated, overburdened, and oddly enough, people didn't seem to warm to me as much as I'd hoped. Then one day I had no choice but to ask for help on a project. To my surprise, my colleague didn't just assist me, he went above and beyond. What's more, our relationship transformed. By allowing him to help me, I gave him the opportunity to feel valued, and it strengthened our bond. Actionable tips. Don't be afraid to ask for small favors. Whether it's asking for advice, borrowing something, or seeking clarification, these moments of vulnerability can create deeper connections. Be mindful not to overburden others, though. Small, manageable requests go a long way, but consistent demands may have the opposite effect. By inviting others to contribute to your success, you're giving them a stake in your journey, and this can make them your strongest supporters. Secret number 2, acknowledge and appreciate others' contributions. Let me ask you, when was the last time you sincerely complimented a coworker? Not just the generic good job, but genuinely recognizing something specific they did well. If you can't remember, you might be missing out on one of the most powerful tools in effective communication. The power of recognition. Humans have an innate desire to be appreciated. When people feel that their efforts are noticed, it boosts their sense of self-worth. And the more someone feels valued, the more likely they are to value you in return. Think about it. Don't you naturally gravitate toward people who make you feel good about yourself? Personal story. A few years ago, I worked with a colleague who always put in extra effort to ensure her reports were visually appealing. The graphs were clear, the data was well organized, and the layout was immaculate. I didn't realize it at the time, but she took great pride in this attention to detail. One day, after reviewing one of her reports, I made a point to tell her how much I appreciated the clarity of her work. She lit up and thanked me, but the real impact came later. Our working relationship drastically improved after that. She became more collaborative, more open, and frankly, we started to enjoy working together. Why this matters. When you acknowledge the small things that others take pride in, you're not just complimenting their work, you're validating their identity. This fosters trust and mutual respect. Actionable tips. Make a habit of recognizing contributions, even for things that seem minor. Whether it's their effort in a meeting, their punctuality, or their creativity, every acknowledgement counts. Be specific. Instead of "good job," say, "I really liked how you structured that presentation. It made the data so easy to follow." Acknowledgement isn't just about making others feel good. It's about building bridges of mutual respect. Secret number 3, mastering empathy is a game changer. Of all the communication tools at your disposal, empathy is perhaps the most misunderstood and the most powerful. Empathy goes beyond simply listening to someone's words. It's about truly understanding their feelings and responding with compassion. The principle of similarity. In psychology, there's a concept known as the principle of similarity. People tend to like those who they perceive to be similar to them. When you show empathy, you're telling the other person, "I understand where you're coming from, and I've felt something similar." This sense of shared experience creates an emotional bond. Personal story. I once had a colleague who was going through a particularly tough time. His workload was piling up, and he was visibly stressed. I noticed, but instead of offering sympathy or advice, I brushed it off, thinking he'd manage on his own. It wasn't until much later that I realized my lack of empathy had contributed to the distance between us. A turning point came when I simply acknowledged his stress. "That sounds really tough. I can imagine how overwhelming it must feel." That simple statement. Conclusion. The 3 pillars of effective communication. So what's the takeaway from all of this? If you want to be liked, respected, and trusted, you need to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity for connection. Acknowledge others. Make people feel seen and appreciated. Master empathy. Understand and respond to the emotions behind the words. These 3 pillars, help, acknowledgement, and empathy, form the foundation of strong, lasting relationships in both your professional and personal life. And remember, communication is a skill that can be honed with practice. So why not start today? Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more insights on mastering life's most essential skills.